Welcome to the 2-month review. Actually, welcome to an old episode of the 2-month review. So, as you may know, if you follow the 3% blog or the 2-month review Twitter or Chad posts myself, my Twitter, we are going to be launching the next season of the 2-month review in May. And it will focus on the third volume of Rodrigo Fresán's amazing trilogy that consists of the invented part, the dream part, and now the remembered part. The Remembered Part is a giant and incredible book, very rich, very fulfilling in terms of summing up and completing the trilogy. But before we dive into it, it felt like a good idea to try and remind everyone what happened in the first two volumes. The very first volume, The Invented Part, was the very first season of the 2-month review. So to celebrate Rodrigo, to emphasize his importance to both Open Letter and this podcast and everything else, I thought we would rerun all of the episodes from the Invented Part season and the Dream Part season, giving anyone who hasn't heard them before a chance to listen to them, but also anyone who's interested in joining up in this next season, focusing on the third volume of the trilogy. This could be a good refresher. I personally think I need it. My brain is just mush these days. So enjoy your re-listen or first listen to all of these forthcoming 2-month review podcasts. Subscribe to us, like us on YouTube, like us on Apple or whatever you do there. You rate things, like us, follow us on Twitter. We're at 2-month review, and have fun. Rodrigo is a blast. His books are wild, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy all of this.
Last night your dreams were broadcast, but no one you know has a television for crooked apes on horseback.
Welcome to 2-month review, a weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, analyze it, talk about it, discuss it, make jokes, have a good time. This season, we are talking about The Dreamed Part by Rodrigo Fresán, and today specifically we're going up to page 362. I am Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and I'm joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox.
Hi, Chad.
Doing okay, man?
Oh, yeah, man. Doing great.
And we are joining us from Chile, special guest Carlos Labbé. How are you doing?
Very well. The time of my life.
Yes.
I just taught my last class of the semester, so yay for that. But last session was about Lost, about the TV show Lost, and when we had the third policeman on there and how he got involved with like being the literary consultant for the show and all that. And at the end, I was like, guys, like that literally on the day that I wrote the article for the Wall Street Journal, that was the most read culture article they had ever had at that point in time. I knew that was the best moment of my life, this whole series of events, and I would never have that again. That was the peak. And now we're here at like the nadir. Like,
exactly, the nadir.
Like telling them this amazing
worse.
fun, and now now we're here.
Yeah.
Oh, sucks. So anyways, Carlos, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now in your books in general? Because we have published 3 of your books, correct?
Yes. Well, right now, spiritual choreographies seems too far ago, right? No spirits, no choreographies anymore. Nobody is allowed to dance. Nobody is allowed to have a spirit. We are all bodies with a virus, and everything is material. So abstract, experimental fiction writing is not important. Well, never was important, right? But
No.
but now
You're making a huge leap there.
There are a few stages of other things that we have to believe in first, other assumptions.
But the thing is, right now, I have to just work, right? And no more spiritual choreographies for me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going back to Navidad and Matanza. That's more concrete, more politically charged.
Mm-hmm.
No, but the thing is, right now I'm in Chile. I have been here 3 months and a half, and I think I have 2 weeks or 3 weeks to go back to New York, home, where I call home for the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know how's my home anymore. Maybe full of I don't know, rats enjoying themselves.
But nobody's checking
Uh,
your face. It's just there.
it's just there. Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah,
come
and-
home to a rat orgy in your house.
exactly. Yeah, they're waiting for me. But at the same time, I work in an office. I used to work in an office.
Yeah.
So when I came to Chile in February, we came to be part of the political situation that was going on. That was very interesting in Chile.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything came as to everywhere in the world. The virus, the pandemic, and all stuff, and everything was shut down. And so I started like working remotely in February. And that office where I used to work, it doesn't exist anymore. Everyone is working remotely now. So I could not go back and I could not care about Trump's immigration nonsense anymore. I don't need them. Now I can work from Chile. No, I'm just joking. But I hope it would be like that. And at the same time, I'm writing. I don't know what I'm writing now. I guess I'm writing 2 novels and 1 long poem, maybe a long epic poem, something like the Coronavaria or something like the Iliad, or
Amazing.
like one verse a day or something like that. And I'm trying to write like a 1,000-page novel.
Whoa!
Because why not? We could be dead tomorrow, so I want to try that.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, and being with the family and with nobody else, like everyone, like having fun with myself, dancing with myself, writing myself, reading myself, burning books, the usual stuff.
The being by yourself thing has gotten a little out of hand in our house a bit, because there's 5 of us crammed in here, including 2 teenagers, 16-year-old girl who is very emotional at times, but then Aiden, who's usually pretty quiet and just deals with stuff, came out the other day and he had one of those little Funko Pops of Morty from Rick and Morty, and the one arm is giant, it's like strong arm Morty, and the other one's really small, and he's like, "Hey Dad, this is every young boy after the quarantine." from like and I was like, "Oh my God, my son just made it."
That.
Like, this is solid. And then a little bit later, he's like, "Dad, can I just have 20 minutes by myself? I just want to be by myself for 20 minutes." I was like, "Buddy, it's quarantine time. You got to get in and out of that. You get like 4 minutes max. You just get the stuff done. Don't cuddle, don't foreplay, just do it." 20 minutes.
That's good. But yeah, everything now is out there in the house. You have to talk about that, right?
It's insane.
You cannot hide.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
anyway.
hard being a teenager. Wow. Yeah, you can go out. You can run away from. Yeah, that's very bad for them. I feel for them.
Yeah, they're a little bit frayed at all edges, but we're doing okay. So I actually have a place to start for you guys. So, well, I guess Carlos, you've read all of the Dream part in Spanish, I assume, right?
Not all of them, but I read it in Spanish. So every quote you have, I don't have the book in English too. So I will follow it with my mind and try to remember, because I don't have the book in English, in Spanish or English. All my books are in New York.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I thought this would be really fun to have you on, because then you can just like say whatever and make fun of us in whatever way. But I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is for you two. Okay, so this is the first question I have for you. This is models of fathers and writers, and you are both fathers and you are both writers. Okay, there are 3 types of fathers and writers. The one who, in a house fire, rescues his son. The one who, in a house fire, rescues the manuscript of his novel. Or the one who, in a house fire, rescues his son, gets him to safety, and goes back into the flames to rescue the manuscript of his novel, and dies in the attempt and leaves his son an orphan. Which one are you?
Brian?
I've actually had a house fire with a kid.
Wow.
I'm the third one, but I survived.
Yeah, fair.
So you're the fourth. You're the ghost, right?
Yeah, because I only had the manuscript was on my laptop. I didn't have it like on the cloud or anything like that because I'm terrible with technology. And so I got my daughter, and the fire was outside our. I live in an apartment building. It was in the hallway across, and so I got my daughter and my wife to safety, but then I ran back in and grabbed. I left the wedding pictures, the keepsakes, all of it. Just grab the laptop, get out. Yeah, the cat stayed in.
Wow.
I just grabbed the work and got out. But yeah, so I'm the third one.
Wow.
I would have saved my kid just to have them be an orphan because I'm vain and want to grab my work because it's so important.
Yeah, I think the third option is the better one, the best. Because dying is very good for a kid, for your son, right? And he has your book, your manuscript. He can cash it. Or you become a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
See, again, it's
first
the totally
one, I don't
vain.
know.
It's the vain answer. Either I can get my work and save it because it's that important and it's that meaningful, or I'll become a legend dying trying to get it, and then I'll be famous that way. So either way, I'm gonna be great.
Exactly. But losing your kid is like everyone will kill you afterwards, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god. So cool. I would be the third one too, I suppose, if I wrote, but I don't. So I would probably just be the first one. I'd save the kids and just leave all my shit. It doesn't matter at all. I've also, since I lost my computer last year and all of my stuff, I've become very detached from data thing. It's all replaceable, kind of. But anyway, so if you haven't read this is a section where there's a few different main points to this, but we find out a little bit more about where the writer is, like what his setup is, which we can get to in a minute. But this is a big part of the section, aside from being like a list of insomnia bits, like bits about insomnia, what famous people who had insomnia, what insomnia is like a ton of these. Where is that part? Like little one-liners, like insomnia like a dislocated location where you think about what comes to pass and what came to pass and what will come to pass, and various aphorisms like that. Because our writer has insomnia and is sort of losing his shit a little bit. They're also, the main thing that we can talk about first, that Brian, you brought up before you even got on here, is that Transparent Things by Nabokov is a big part of this section and kind of the book as a whole. So it gets introduced early on page 309, where it's talking about Nabokov's idea of an enchanter quality. And then he says to show and to hide and to insinuate, and Vladimir Nabokov raises this tension to the max in stories like The Bain Sisters and Signs and Symbols, and in novels like Transparent Things. And then a little bit later, there's a guy approaches the writer at a bar that's the Belvedere. And the Belvedere is a bar in Barcelona that I've been to with Rodrigo, where we had our mantras. But this guy talks to him about transparent things, about writing, and keeps drinking bullshots. Which, do you know what a bullshot is?
Well, it's in the book. Yeah. You gave me the recipe yesterday, and this is not a beverage. It's a marinade.
It is very strong.
Soup, right?
It's like soup. It is beef
Very
broth,
Spaniard. Very
vodka,
Spaniard.
Celery salt, Worcester sauce, and lime juice. And I have never tried this. I made it. I went and bought all the ingredients solely for this bit, and I'm going to try this live right now and see if it's better or worse than Malort, the worst drink in the world.
Have you chilled it for 20 seconds?
It's chilled and it has a big ice cube in it.
Okay.
I planned this out. So let's see.
All right. Chad's riding the bull.
Oh my God. No, that's bad. That's not good.
Yeah, it's bad.
That's not good. That's not what I wanted it to be at all. Ugh.
Too salty? Too salty?
It's like meaty. Like it just tastes like a marinade. It doesn't taste, but not like there's any good substance to it. It's just like drinking like A1.
Yeah, it's perfect. If you were sick,
I was thinking
if you had the virus, you don't have the virus.
Yeah, no, I killed it. This is better than my
Yeah,
Wow,
I'm
and
pretty sure
that's
because coronavirus won't want to live
yeah,
with that
with
in your
someone
body. It's
who,
like, I'm good.
yeah, exactly.
With
I'm going to
it's
say,
not a huge long-lasting aftertaste. Like there could be, if there were a long-lasting aftertaste, it'd be way worse. But it's still not good. I'm gonna drink it through this whole episode. By the end, I'll be slurring because it has a
you
quarter
have to finish it.
vodka in it.
You have to finish it.
I know it's
So
kind
I
of
had everything to make that drink. I was going to join you. I had everything to make that drink except for beef stock. I had chicken stock. So I was going to make a drink called the chicken shit, which was going to be the same
white,
drink,
right?
but with, yeah.
We had chicken too. I went
some
to
chicken
Wegmans
stock.
this morning. I drove to Wegmans this morning to get beef broth just to be able to do this one gag. I endangered my life for this podcast.
That seems like something that would be like if you're into CrossFit and you want to go drinking with your bros, like you would order that because it's got some beef stock,
Some protein.
And,
you can add some protein. Yeah.
yeah.
But anyways, okay. So
maybe without the broth, maybe without the meat thing could be better, right?
it would just be
Only the celery. Yeah, vodka and celery salt is good, right?
Yeah.
It's like a Bloody Mary without the tomato.
The tomato, right? Yeah. Sounds good.
It's carnivorous.
Wow, I'm starting to miss Bloody Mary. Maybe I make a
I don't
I
like
made a Bloody Mary for myself. You don't like it?
I'm not a Bloody Mary fan, no.
Oh, I love it.
Me too.
Now we are off into a whole new world. So transparent things, Brian. You went deep into transparent things and had some ideas.
Well, I don't know how deep I want to get into because I'm not super familiar with the work. Other than I started looking into it and reading it a little bit, and it seems like it was a huge influence for kind of the way this book is set up. Or I don't know. I thought it was interesting that although it's a very short, small work, it's super dense, as it kind of explains here. But I like the idea that what's more important than the story itself is who's telling the story, as it's switching narration, and who's the narrator, and are they ghosts, are they alive, are they not? And it's almost like the future is so uncertain that the past in that book becomes like the sexiest, most seductive thing. And so there's this idea of memory being super important, and the place and the memory. And I kind of feel that with reading Rodrigo's work, where it's more like who's telling, it's confusing, and you're wondering who's telling the story. And it's the story of the past is so much more important than what's going to happen next, that you kind of remain in this weird kind of dreamy, echoing past.
Yeah, absolutely. I did read Transparent Things last year after working on this book, and after there's a book by what's her name, Nafisi. I forget what her first name is, but about Nabokov, and I started rereading a bunch of stuff to read along with doing that book, which was pretty cool. But Transparent Things I read last summer, and it is really great. I wrote a little thing about it for the website that I can post in the comments here. Just a little section, but it talks about how, like you say, the plot itself is not very confusing, but like there's this we that comes in at the beginning and the end that sort of explains things, and it's not associated with embodied entity. So it twists the books into a very weird shape of like what like you say, like where it's being told. And that comes up in here at some point. Is it in this chapter where the narrator's like talking about the difficulty of Transparent Things, or because I think it keeps coming up over and over again in this book in this last half. I might be wrong about that. But one thing I noticed when I was reading this last night is that we are in a set where it's starting to cycle and loop, almost like little mini loops. Like you had to mention last week that we talked about, I think it was last week, of the JFK, my God, the FBI spy that's spying on Nabokov, and then goes and works in the hotel and brings him the TV set to watch the moon landing. And then here, the guy that's drinking this god-awful Bullshot says that he got to know Nabokov and that he worked with him and even watched the moon landing with him. So you get like a new version of that story, as if maybe the one that we heard before was the invented version of the story that the writer heard from this guy. But there's a lot of this kind of looping stuff, like the Hey Walrus. kind of his story keeps coming up again and again at like certain intervals, and you get a little bit more clarity on what his deal is, especially in this one, which is hilarious. And the school kid that dies comes back again. So there's like certain things that seem like stories that seem to be kind of recurring at this point, almost like a dream cycle of sorts. That's my long bit.
Yeah. And the answer is yes.
I was wondering about the transparency thing.
What's that, Carlos?
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? Yeah. The transparency word, it's very, from a Latin American point of view, talking about transparency immediately echoes you to the American, American literature, like works by, in the 90s, Fresán was a big thing in the 90s. They were talking a lot about transparency in the Latin American realm, echoing journalism, and I wonder if he's talking about that too, like in opposing to, of course, to Garcia Marquez or any Baroque, like Latin American Baroque tradition, like saying, okay, we are not French anymore. We are not European or indigenous. I don't know. We don't have any indigenous tradition, but we wanna like embrace the 90s American literature. Let's say Easton Ellis, or because the way you were describing that part, it echoes Proust. I was thinking about Proust, of course, right? The whole trilogy is like a I don't know, update of Proust from an Argentinian Spaniard author. But I was wondering if he's talking about this whole era where they were against Europe and pro the United States.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. There's a couple of things came to mind as you were saying that too, like the relationship to the word transparency, just to begin with, and like sort of the. I mean, now it's got very political context almost all the time. When I use it, that things are not very transparent, or that they should be more transparent, or whatever. But in a way, it does reflect back on his autofiction comments too, of like the sort of transparency of like of it being clear that it's you as the author, whereas this is playing the game of like it's not Rodrigo, the writer is not the writer of the books. Like there's a lot of different layers to who's telling the story or where it is. So it's not totally transparent. It's like the opposite of that. It's like, no, instead of like being autofiction, this is going to be a crafted fiction that is clear, that has those
dealing with that, right?
Too.
With that idea of the like journalism. Mm-hmm. And journalism is not transparent anymore. Everyone knows that journalism is totally like fake and like maybe it's more arcane than fiction. Like who's behind this? Like they want us to think this not because they want that directly, but it's like Trump saying like drink bleach. It's not that he wants us to drink bleach. He wants just try like how they call it, flying balloons or something like that.
Test balloon.
That like test balloon. Let's just test who like it's fishing, right? Let's fish for some fools, and in that way, transparency is not transparent anymore, right? And I wonder if it was transparent. When it was transparent, was it a time when transparency was transparent, or was it literature when transparency was transparent? That's my question, right?
That's for you, Brian. I'm not up to that level, especially after 3 sips of this fucking drink.
No, I think you're spot on with bringing in Proust. It talks about Proust about quite a bit in this section as well. So yeah. I think that's a a fantastic observation that you're making. And I really am curious, maybe at another point, I'd love to talk with you more about American literature in the 90s and what was inspiring or not inspiring. Because that's fascinating to me. Because I always think of like, you know, it was interesting, like in my education, I was always kind of upset that we never got to get to American literature because there's so much European literature in the canon that like there's no time to do any kind of a American lit. And like forget South American literature. Like here's Borges, you could do an essay by him, we're good. All right, moving on. and one magical realism story. Okay, good. Let's check off that box and let's go back to Wordsworth. Right.
Exactly. So, and that's and in Latin America, that's the 60s. You know.
Yeah.
So we are all the time behind, right?
Yeah, it doesn't help that like there's a lot of things about that too. And you want to go deep into this, using this transparency as like a metaphor. There's also the non-transparency of why certain authors got selected to be published in English and other ones didn't, and how that then influenced the way that we perceived the literature from Latin America. I mean, all that stuff gets crafted and definitely not transparent. I mean, you could say it's all money. Everyone's looking to make the most amount of money, but there's something more to it in taste making that has its own agenda that isn't very clear.
Yeah, for translations, transparency is never there, right? That's why maybe a translated book is never. It's not easy to be like a popular book, because people can see the glass, right? People can see a little bit of I don't know, of your halo in the surface. And in the case of, I was thinking about Fresán, it's very tricky because he's an Argentinian guy in Spain. So in Spain, he's not transparent too. But however, he's almost a Spaniard now, but you can always see his Argentinian roots. And at the same time, an Argentinian is never a transparent, like this. There's no or myth of transparency in Argentina. In Argentina, you are always Italian, or Irish, or Spaniard, or something else. There's no like the myth of the essence of Argentina. They come from the ships, right? Mm-hmm. They are always foreign, and then you take that book, like this Proustian book from an Argentinian guy in Spain, and you take it to Rochester and translate it by a guy from Wisconsin, and then the person who's reading maybe is from, I don't know, Dakota, let's say, or New York. And so you have 4 levels of transparency, and those layers, and it's not transparent. His style is not transparent, right?
No, yeah, there are lots of layers and lots of little hints and
starting to sound like a Bullshot when you start adding all those different elements into the
should be the title of the post.
Exactly, and the Nabokov is the vodka, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what's the broth? Maybe the broth is
yeah.
Oh man.
The other part with transparency too, though, I was wondering if it's partly a kind of a hint as to read quickly and to skim, to not go too deep into the surface, because it gets, that's where it will get dark and murky as you get weighted down underneath. And I think that I wonder, like in a book like this, and I'm curious if it's in Nabokov's work as well, where you'll kind of get lost and crushed if you try to go too deep into it, and you need to like skim across it as fast and furiously as possible. He mentions this like running, and he mentions even better like Penelope with ice skating, like this quick breeze, kind of like a lot of momentum and a lot of energy put into like pushing through it. And I'm curious if that's part of it as well. Because this is one of these books where I feel like it could be like a black hole, or if you get,
I think that's
it'll crush you.
That's a great quality. I'm just learning about that quality, levity. Remember Calvino's 6 lessons? Levity is something I have never managed. I never learned about levity, and that's a thing that I think Fresán does handle, like being deep, trying, but it's like a scam, right? It's like not trying to be like straightforward deep, or not trying to be straightforward opaque, so people can be interesting. All kinds of people, right? Not only heady writers.
Yeah.
That's surface, only surface, right? It's like music.
Yeah, it is. There's it's really good, really interesting. And I was going to ask you guys one other. I got a bunch of marked notes for you guys. One other one that I thought would hit home for everyone on this podcast is the bit where the guy's talking, and on page 317 he says, "What I was, a physicist and mathematician and cosmologist. It's not a simple occupation, and it's well known that a good number of the members of my quote-unquote race reach their peak between 20 and 30 years old. After that, only exceptional beings achieve anything with formulas and equations and theorems. Others I've read last a bit longer, right? I read that statistically, you're more likely to hit your high point around 45. Yes, right. I was like, oh, no, this is the high point? I don't like that.
How old?
Oh,
Carlos,
no,
how old are you? How old are you,
No,
Carlos?
I'm 42. I'm 42,
Oh,
so I'm on track.
You got it.
I have 3 years.
That'll be done when you're 45.
So you're
Exactly. Let's hopefully, right? That's a very good quote.
Your epic poem and your 1,000-page novel should be done by 45, hopefully, at your peak. So there you go.
Exactly. Then I die.
Yeah.
Then you're done.
Then
it's just done.
Yeah.
The other one that I wanted to ask is
38, so I got a couple years still to go, so I can procrastinate a little bit longer and just think about writing rather than write. Yeah.
You have time.
I have time to just think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you won't go out
There's
for a couple of years.
Exactly. But there are isolated cases, of course.
Oh, you probably this one too, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
You probably underlined this one too, but just to keep the joy flowing on 323, writers are fragile and delicate and fade away so easily. And what looks so easy from outside turns out to be so difficult to maintain with internal harmony. It's not enough to be cultured and be able to cultivate and germinate and harvest something. And he was never great when it came to pruning. He was always more inclusive than exclusive, which I think is a good reference for the book being constantly like baggy. Like it adds, other things get added and added and added. The insomnia lists go on and on. Like he just always wants to include the world, include everything within there, which reminded me too, jumping back a page. I wrote this down. I read this last night, reread it last night, and I circled this, but
just above that though is the writers are bonsais who dream they are oaks, which is another one I like.
It's great. This where it's talking about God, and that I identified with the Judeo-Christian idea of God. The idea, my idea, was that sooner rather than later, humanity would end up attaining such great computational speed and storage capacity that all that very big data would be transformed into an entity capable of generating an infinite virtual time, which would allow the invocation of the communication and consultation with every being that's ever lived. And I believe that we live in a simulation more than ever because of like the way the world is. And that one really spoke to me. It was like, yep, I get it. We're in infinite time now. Time doesn't work right. And there's another interesting part that relates to this quarantine COVID moment later on, where it's talking about speed of time and how, so it's on page 351. The terrible paradox that as less and less time is left in life, the days pass more and more quickly. And that when we're children and we have everything in front of us, time seems to crawl slowly or to waste its own time, lying on its back and looking up at the tempera painting and the lights and shadows dancing across the ceiling. There's, as for almost everything, a more or less scientific explanation for the phenomenon. What slows down or speeds up time, they say, is either lack or excess of experience. During childhood, everything's new. Everything requires analysis and study and assimilation. When you pay more attention to something, the brain works more and annuls and slows down everything around to prevent distractions. Thus, the occasional zombies end focus of some children. And I thought of that in relation to this because the days here in isolation seem to be very weird. Like they it sort of jumps. Like at moments in time, I'll be like, oh my God, it's already like 2:00. And then it'll be like 45 hours before bedtime, and it'll just drag on and on. And I had the sense that it's like we're in a new situation where we haven't had this experience of being in this space. So we're paying attention to one thing, COVID. There's no news anymore. Like you said, Brian, they released the Pentagon released the alien videos and nobody gives a shit. But
and news are always the same. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
News are always the same numbers, right? Only numbers.
Yep. And I think that's making time pass in a weird way because we're focused too much. We're so focused on something and we're learning new things. And because of that learning, it's making our time ebb and flow in a way that it wasn't before. That's my new scientific explanation for why I have my very now regularized strange mood swings through the day.
Are you guys like? Do you guys like to read books like in a sitting? Are you alive?
I'm barely.
Are you good?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, Monday night I sat with a novel and I read the entire novel, a 100-page novel by a Chilean science fiction writer, a woman. Her name is Elena Aldunate, and the title would be like approximate in English would be like From the Cosmos They Want Them Virgins. So I read the book. It's very interesting, and I read the book in like a couple of hours. And so crazy the book. It's a science fiction book from the 60s from a very Catholic, strange woman, but very good writer. And I felt like when I finished the book, I felt like I was like 3 days reading the book. Very short, very exact, nothing sprawling, full of transparency. But I felt like that's because the subject, right? The subject was in Chile. Then they went to the whole cosmos, the whole space, and they go back to like 20 years later. So to me it was like a ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking about books like this one, Fresán's book, Fresán's trilogy. It's like reading Proust or listening to the new Bob Dylan song, or I don't know if the newest one, right? Like the 12-minute song with a lot of references. But when I was listening to the Bob Dylan song, to me it wasn't like too long. It was like the guy was repeating everything. It was a pattern, right? So our COVID days are like very pattern-like. Mm-hmm. Everyone's the same. Everyone's with the same people, doing mostly the same. You are quarantined. So it's. I wonder if for you guys, like reading these days, they change your time sense of time, right? And it depends on the book.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on like reading during this time where it's been very difficult to focus or concentrate, and I just like whatever. But I read Andres Newman's latest book, Fracture, over the weekend, and it's long. Like it's only like 350 pages, but they're like really dense pages. The print is very small, and it took a while. But that was the first book that I really like felt immersed in a long time during this, and time went by much more smoothly. Otherwise, this seems to be very herky-jerky with like reading different bits.
Yeah, when you watch a movie or watch TV shows, time is always the same because it's like 22 long, right? Yeah. You know that you're gonna spend 22 minutes, and you know that you will have that action and that like sense of fiction, right? But books, it's very interesting, and I wonder if books will be more popular in that way when people start with this long quarantine or I don't know time. They will start like way to go out, and not only in space, but also in time will be like reading Proust. Let's read Proust. And be like political again with Proust, right?
Right on. If anything that gets people to read more books, I'm for. except for the coronavirus. That no, I'm not approving of that. But
not that.
Silver linings, right? Yeah.
Well, I found for me, time's going by really fast because I have nothing to look forward to.
That's true.
No,
There's no.
if you anticipate something exciting or amazing, or you have this deadline that you're looking forward to, it really slows down. It's agonizing. It takes forever. It's like trying to go to bed the night before you know you're leaving for vacation. You're super excited to get started on this journey. But if there is no journey and there is no future that you can really see,
There's nothing there, right?
They just bleed together. Like an hour is a day, a day is a week, whatever. Like whatever. I'm just kind of like I'm just kind of a weird, just swimming in it. And it is nice to anchor yourself with a book or something where you can have a charted start to finish. And like I think it's a wonderful time to be reading, because for me, there's really not a whole lot.
You know,
the fantasy, they say the animals, they live in the moment, right? I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But they say animals, they don't have a sense of past or future or nothing to expect. Maybe the new reality for human will be like living in the moment. I don't know. Sounds. I don't know.
One of the things that I like that I think we should go back to that's in this book is where it talks about how I know this is in Roman times, I believe too, but up through the 1800s, where people would go to bed and wake up and do stuff and then go to bed again, that you'd sleep twice during the night. I think that's
you just take a drink. Take a drink of your Bullshot. There's something going on in your throat. Take a good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you look too sane now.
Yeah. God damn. But I like the idea
after the list of insomnia, the list of beds.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Like waking up in the middle of the night and doing thing, or reading a book, and then doing the Excel, and then sleeping again.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Go to bed at 7, go at 11, go to bed at 5, get up at 8.
Yeah.
Like it'd be a fun new routine, a new way for people to live. We just
start the idea that you have these different beds for different actions. There's your sleeping bed, there's your sex bed, your eating. If you want to eat in bed, there's that bed for like they have
exactly. Nobody needs desks anymore, right?
Yeah. No, we really don't. I've been teaching from my bed every single day. Like I just stay in bed and like
I think everyone is in their bed, right? But you know, kids don't like that. Kids like to be. They wake up at 7 or 6 or 8, and they don't go back to bed.
Yeah.
They're not in that, right?
No, definitely not. There's one other part that I think we should mention as like a plot point part is, well, two things. There are 2 plot points worth mentioning. One is the Uncle Hey Walrus, which his story is pretty hilarious, where he's involved with the Beatles, and there's that part of it. But the part that I like is that when he was a kid, he was hypnotized and made to bark like a dog. While he was barking like a dog, the hypnotist dies of a heart attack, and he's stuck barking like a dog until his dad slaps him out of it. And then he every so often can't control that, and it's still like subconsciously dog-like. And when they hear the whistle, and is it A Day in the Life, or is it, I forget which song it was, the Beatles, that has like the dog whistle hidden in it, and he gets like freaked out about it because he's like sensitively attuned to dog stuff from this hypnosis. I love that. I thought that was hilarious. That was cracking me up last night.
Yeah, it got him a job with the Beatles. So.
Got him a job with the Beatles. That's another example though of how this book keeps doing that same trick. It introduces him being with the Beatles and doing whatever he did for them, and that story, and then later explains how he got that job and because of the hearing the dog whistle thing. And then the other part to mention, I think, as a plot point, is that we get a short description of where he is, like physically. His bed, it says on 358, his bed is, yes, much more than a bed. This bed is a normal bed, like a black marble mausoleum with angels and gargoyles. It is a simple tomb in the earth with 2 pieces of wood forming a cross. His bed is a colossal structure, ebony with inlaid mirrors and precious stones that seems to rock like a ship on the waves of his memories and on the rails by which he moves far and wide throughout his house. He has ordered the royalties that ceaselessly pour in courtesy of the Gothic fantasies of his flamboyant sister have allowed him this and so many other whims. He has ordered walls torn down and hallways fit with rails and stairways turned to ramps and a complex invention woven of steel cables and pulleys that carries him here and there without ever needing to get up. Like in the old comics about the sleepyhead little Nemo. His bed moves, his bed travels. So he's in like a crazy, taking that face value, is like crazy contraption where you can just go throughout this whole house to wherever using like a pulley system in this giant elaborate bed, not able to sleep.
It's me, or feels like the book, the narrator is reclusive, right? It's in reclusion. It's like he's not narrating like walking in the street or in a very busy, I don't know, place. He's like us, right? He's quarantined. He's like checking his flow. Yep. So it's a good book for the moment, right?
Yeah, it's true. It is very revisionist. And he's also like, I think he's sort of reclusive in the state too, because he's no longer a writer. He's an ex-writer. He's written his last book, according to his statement. So he's resigned to being an insomniac in bed. The insomnia thing, though, I wanted to mention. I'm going to use this. I'm going to jump ahead and say that this is my favorite line because I want to talk about this part. So there's a bit, when you sleep badly or don't sleep well, it's been proven that the brain begins to create false memories. Cryptomnesia, they call it. The paradox that the impossibility of dreaming leads you to invent yourself a dreamed life, a waking dream past that ends up swallowing the nightmare of the real. And I will sleep, not well. I have not been sleeping well, and I've not been having my normal dream states. Like sometimes it's the same, but like last night I was in my weird city that I go to every so often, and that's always the same. And went to the Irish bar that I always go to, and they were opening post-COVID, but they had all the tables blocked off, and everybody had to stand crowded around the bar. And I was like, that seems totally backwards and unsafe. But like, there's so many. That's like the closest I've had to a regular dream. But I've had a lot of images, like where I've thought I've had conversations, and then I'll realize that wasn't even possible. Like I haven't seen that person, but it was just like an imagined dream or an invented memory. And they're always like fairly realistic. So I feel like I'm moving in that this COVID thing has given me so much stress, and this situation has been so like whatever. I'm not sleeping right, and my brain's reacting by inventing these hallucinogenic memories. And then I'm forgetting all the real things in life and inventing new things from my made up crazy dreams.
Yeah, you need more. You need experiences, right? And you are not having those experiences. So maybe you should start writing, because I'm guessing that's
I'm not good at it.
Yeah, it's the only way to find new experiences when you can't. Like when you are saying that the narrator is he's an ex-writer, right? Well, it's an ex-writer, and he's still writing. Like he's writing because he wants to recreate those experiences or create new experiences. Like like being with the Beatles again, right?
Yeah, there's a line there's a line that's almost exactly that too. That's in here where it talks about it's got a reference to this trilogy essentially.
But it's interesting, like as you're looking for it, like as your life is so out of sorts, your dreams become what your normal life was, like you're dreaming about a conversation. Did I have that conversation or not? Versus if you had been living your normal life, your dreams would be fantastic and amazing and so far from reality, it's a dream. But because you're trapped inside this house, not living out your life, you're dreaming of just your normal life. And that's really sad. It's strange.
Really. Oh my God!
You need like Carlos was saying. You need some experiences. Maybe the writing will help with that. But no, I've had some similar dreams too, where I'm not dreaming of these amazing, fantastic fantasies. It's just more of like, did I load the dishwasher? Or did you load the dishwasher? That's not a dream. Like,
right? Yeah.
What the hell? What's
you don't have any way to discriminate between the realities, right?
Yeah.
Oh. It's all just the same simulation. We're all going to wake up one day and realize it's cool, man. So this is the line that I was thinking. He never had he never had any desire to put how he stopped writing and writing.
I think the connection is going bad.
He wrote about the opposite so many times, about the alpha of the matter. He analyzed and reinvented it from all possible angles. And then a little bit later, the only thing that comes to him are bits of plot. Where did that line? I just had it. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. But the reinvented and invented, like, that's clearly like the invented part constantly went back to that story of like becoming a writer, how you become a writer and how that begins. Yeah, it's on 345. All that come to him now are embryos of plots and aborted storylines. nothing but the character's style of dress that will never be his own. Just the title of a never-filmed movie to be shown in a film club in some story. Ever ready and enumerative list, never settling for the white man age sheep that he could count, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's like all like half there. So the writer has like continues like creating, but it's not fully fleshed, and it's sort of like merging in this. It's a bullshot. It's a bullshot of flavors and a board of storylines. Oh.
The bullshot is it real or is it an invention? Is it an invention?
Yeah,
is it an invention by Fresán? Not real, right?
No, it's real. I googled it, and it's Bon Appetit.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Bon Appetit has a recipe for bullshot. I'm sharing in the comment section as we speak.
I have a quick question. It's totally. I mean, it's not related to what you're saying, but on 324, there's a quote of a Nobel Prize winner that states, "Many writers have distanced themselves from public life and even feel a certain disdain for politics. But I think the writer should always be in that sphere. He cannot be isolated like Proust, who ordered his walls lined with cork so no outside sound could reach him. That image terrifies me." Do you know which Nobel lecture that's from?
I meant to look it up, but I was reading this outside, and so I just kept going and forgot to look that up until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, I was typing
like
it on my...
Camus.
Camus, you think?
I think it could be Camus. Or maybe not, but to me, I don't know why it sounds like Camus.
Well, it makes sense comparing their process to another French writer would probably make sense. But yeah, I was trying to figure out who that was. I typed in on my phone like that first part of it, and I got like the phone book basically of who could have said something like that, but I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't narrow down who it was. But it was on my phone. I didn't have my computer with me, so I couldn't look it up. But yeah, I'm curious. Maybe one of the listeners can yell at me that I'm an idiot for not knowing who it is.
It's Camus.
Oh, Carlos for the circle gets the square.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
What? Now I'm a circle?
I think it's
what's
Camus.
wrong?
I think it's Camus, the first one that came up. I'm not finding that exact line in here, but the second one was Saul Bellow. Those are the top two results I got for like how I typed this name.
That would be suitable
for
Fresán, right?
Yeah, because he mentioned Bellow earlier, and so I thought maybe that's who it was going to be, but I wasn't certain. But
I don't know. I think it just found me all kinds of nonsense. I don't know that any of these are the actual. I think it's just giving me like people who won the Nobel Prize and gave a speech. It's like what's listing.
I'm sure it's not Vargas Llosa. It's not Vargas Llosa.
No, definitely
that guy. He's out. I think in a quarantine, Vargas Llosa is not reclusive. He's like in a boat with a couple of tyrants plotting against the.
Will Vanderheiden said that it is Mario Vargas Llosa.
Oh, he said so?
Yeah, that's what he said. I think that it is Mario Vargas Llosa.
Wow. So I'm absolutely wrong. And Will is always right.
Well, he probably, I've seen that. He must have found it, so he didn't have to translate
because, he's a translator, He knows about that. Wow.
And he said it perfectly.
It's so close, and it's so gross.
And gloatingly unaware of the other terror.
Don't ever. This is as bad as Malort. Malort's over quickly. This is consuming an hour of my time of drinking, and it's not.
I think you're supposed to just have a quick little shot of it, not like a chalice.
Bon Appetit. Okay, Bon Appetit thing, it says makes one serving, and so I did it for one serving, and that's what this is. But I think like if you did like just an ounce and a couple ounces and just did it as a shot. That's what I'm kind of trying to do, like little shots of it. But
maybe your body has changed in this quarantine. Yeah, you used to be a better drinker than that.
Oh no, I'm a much better drinker now than I ever was before.
Okay, I believe you. Well, I'm impressed about the quote. I want Will to explain that. How Vargas Llosa wrote that in his Nobel acceptance speech, right? I don't know. He's always lying.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I struggled with it because I was wondering, like, am I supposed to be like, not like I have to be one or the other, but what do I want to be? Do I want to be a writer that distances myself from public life and a disdain for politics, or do I want to like be incorporated and have that influence in what I'm trying to do? Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I don't know which one's right or wrong, but I'm more with like the cork walls and like my fingers in my ears kind of a person, I think. Because I know me. You're the opposite. Yeah. I'm just like, I have a hard time. I would be worried too much what others think if I allow the outside world too much of an influence on what I'm trying to do. I'm not strong enough to not give a shit.
Yeah.
And if I isolate myself, I'm better suited for doing that. I just know my weaknesses perhaps on that. But I thought it was really interesting.
When you isolate, you have
dichotomy.
more control, right? More control of the elements. At the same time, I really like the writers or fiction that go outside and like it's like a recording of everything that's happening.
Yes,
like a fantasy, right? Like being the novelist with the mirror and recording everything.
Yeah.
And I guess this book is interesting because this kind of book tries to record everything that's happening in the psychic life of the narrator. Sorry, but at the same time, if the narrator would go outside and who's that? And if the narrator goes out and tries to like blend with everything, it would be impossible to write everything. So you need some degree of control and isolating. I wonder how many novels are being written right now that records like all the mysteries and details of the everyday life in reclusion, right?
Yeah.
As a like monks, like recording the hours.
There's gonna be so many terribly just intimate,
my year,
introspective. My year of quarantine, like,
exactly.
God, can we go outside, please?
Exactly. You just reminded me of one. Okay, so Will wrote back. Will says, haha, yeah, that could be where it's from, actually, the acceptance speech. He ran for president, so he didn't just think writers should be political, but they should be politicians.
Wow.
Oh,
and then
that's worse.
There's a part in I don't know that writers should be politicians per se. I think scientists and I don't know, people like that should be politicians. Definitely
or
politicians.
a TV show host.
Politicians.
Yeah.
Politicians should not be doing it. Full stop. Okay, so there's this bit where he says, nobody will ever, insomnia, a transparent, opaque thing that abides no interpretation. Nobody will ever buy a book entitled The Interpretation of Insomnia because there are no two insomniacs alike or systemizable. Nobody will ever tell their insomnias, nor will they say, you'll never guess what or whom I insomniated last night. Nobody thinks their insomnia holds any interest for anyone else, and besides, it's embarrassing to bring it up. Having insomnia is the closest thing to making that dream of discovering you're naked or your teeth are falling out in public come true, with the particularity that then and there the only audience is yourself. There is a book called My Year of Insomnia that came out just earlier this year about this person that had insomnia for a year and wrote a whole diary about her insomnia. It's published by Grove. I can find it.
Sounds like a good book, right?
I looked at it. It's called The Shapeless Unease, A Year of Not Sleeping.
Wow.
And it's, so it's by Samantha Harvey. And it says that it's an intelligent anatomy of her insomnia, where she spent a year not sleeping in 2016. So someone...
Is she a scientist? Wow.
Which is funny reading that, because I was like, I remember when that book came in, I sent him a picture of the cover of it because it seemed to tie into this. But I don't know if it's good or bad. It looks like it's kind of like dreamlike poetry and half like journalism of like our diary account of a memoir.
Wow, you're gonna finish it.
I'm so close, guys. So why don't you, Carlos can't do it, but Brian, do you have a favorite line from this section?
Sure.
let's wrap it up here. All right, I'm running out of battery, so I'm like, oh, hanging on here. Yeah, I was talking with Rodrigo one time when he was in town, mentioning how much I liked his like long, exuberant, like breath of fresh air sentences, and how much different they are than mine. And he's like, well, you don't want to do like sentences like I do. Like yours are fine. I like yours. So like just be you. So this was the quote that kind of reminded me of that conversation we had. It's on page 323. And also to all those riff writers, and then he mentions a bunch of riff writers who produce that joy of watching somebody run, and at the same time reading them, you feel you are running with them, alongside them, not really comprehending why, and not really understanding what they're trying to tell us there, and that deafening wind, hands and arms and legs in ceaseless motion. Almost nobody reads those writers anymore. Almost nobody dared to feel that kind of euphoria or had that energy to run like that.
Yeah, I like
we get the
Nobel.
Nobel part on the second, but I really like that idea of Rodrigo's writing.
Oh, I think Brian's phone just died. Oh, nope, there you are.
Ooh.
I think something just popped. And my other favorite one is on 350, and this was sort of a COVID dark moment. Anyway, at the beginning of our lives, death is always something that happens to others. And every so often it happens to those young people who, with perspective, when everything has been consummated and they've been consumed, are remembered in a grave voice and saying things like, there's something in them that made you think that they wouldn't live that long. Like a kind of sadness, like a melancholy, not for what they had lived, but for what they would never live. And I read that one last night too. Oh no, that's like, I feel like that in this current moment.
Yeah, exactly. When people die, right?
Boom.
Like
Bullshot.
he or she, you finish. Like you're done.
I'm done. Oh, I am marinating inside now.
And speaking of death, Chad finished the Bullshot.
Oh my God. Anyways,
What's the name in Spanish? What's the name of the Spanish of Bullshot?
I have no idea.
Of the drink. I don't know.
I don't know. If Will knows and he's listening, he can chime in, but I have no idea. I just looked it up because it was funny that I recognized the place, the Belvedere, and went and looked at the pictures. And was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where we went. And then when it had, instead of mantras that you had there, Bullshot, like, I was like, oh, I need to give this a go. And then when I read the description, I made the horrible choice.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's Bullshot in Spanish too.
It's the same. And I know. I don't know if you guys are missing. Well, I know you are missing going to bars. Like guessing by your dream of going to your city into an Irish bar.
Yep.
It has to be an Irish.
I don't know. Well, it's always in my dream city. My dream city has this very specific Irish bar set up in the same place every time I dream the city. So it's one I can count on.
Wow. You have to tell me more about that city. But the thing is, I'm dreaming a lot about parties. Like I'm going to parties every night, and they're great parties. And it's not bad because in the morning I feel like I went to a great party with no hangover or nothing. Like no.
Nice.
But I don't know. I wonder if we are being part of this experiment when we are like you say, like in a simulation, right? And we are in our dreams. We can, in our fiction, right? We can do whatever we used to do, and maybe they are like monitoring what are we doing in our like free time.
Yeah,
sounds very bleak and very obvious, right? Very obvious.
Well, thank you for coming on, Carlos. All three of those books are available through Open Letters website or through your local bookstore. They can order any of them, ship them, get them to you. So if you're listening, order Navidad Matanza, La Cuela, Spiritual Choreographies. Also, Joytime Killbox from Ryan, available everywhere. I've seen some nice tweets about it recently, which is cool and positive. And so next we're going to go up to page 424. And as a reminder, the next book that we're going to do as a 2-month review is Cars on Fire by Monica Ramon Rios, who right there, right
wow,
on.
we are in stereo.
So we're gonna do that next. So anyone who wants to follow along, it's a shorter. We're gonna do 3 shorter books, all by female Spanish writers, translated by females. So it'll be a different sort of season, but they're also all books that are coming out during this pandemic. So to try and give them a bit of extra attention, we thought we'd do this 4x4 by Sarah Mesa and the Book of Anna by Carmen Buyosa. So 3 different Spanish writers, Mexican, Chilean, and Spain. But all relatively short books. This one is short stories, so if you get it, well, we'll have a schedule up very soon, but it'll be a fun one to do over a few week period, and hopefully Monica can come on and talk to us as well.
Yeah, I'm sure she will.
Good. Okay, anything else you want to add?
No, guys, stay safe and go have fun in your dreams.
Yeah,
Meet a lot of fun people when dreaming, and yeah. And when you write, please don't write about insomnia.